Hello and welcome to another Denis Wick's Get to Know. And I'm here with Lessie Vonner. And it's a pleasure to see you, Lessie. And thank you very much for taking part in this interview.
Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, um, for some of our, let's say, viewers in Europe, they might not know all the different areas in the States. So I wondered if, first of all, you could just explain whereabouts you live and why you live there.
Okay. So I'm very happy to be living in Teaneck, New Jersey, just a quick drive away from New York City. The reason I live here is after years and years of working and touring all over the world, it was very important to me to like set up shop and purchase a home. And New York City is very expensive and the rent was only going higher. So I started shopping around, I think 19 for a home. Didn't have too much success in the city, and a couple of people recommended New Jersey, just right across the river. I started looking around in New Jersey and fell in love with the area here in Teaneck, and I've been living here for about 2 years.
What would have inspired you to choose the instrument you play and then remain on it? Because you could have changed, you could have gone on to a different instrument, you might have started on a different instrument. So I just wondered if you could explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in third grade, I had, I think, it was probably an English or reading assignment where we had to pick a book or go down to the library, pick a book, and then write a paper about it. And the book I happened to choose was E.B. White's Trumpet of the Swan. Um, Quick summary is about a trumpeter swan who was born without a voice, couldn't communicate with any of his fellow swans, and by a random, crazy turn of events, he ended up with a trumpet, and that became his voice. And he traveled all over the world playing jazz and, just really beautiful children's book. And to me, that really spoke to me somehow as a young child, and I wanted to give trumpet a try. I had to wait about 3 years because my school district didn't give us actual instruments until middle school. But by the time I played it, it was such a vibe. I enjoyed it so much that I stuck with it. The more and more I learned it and practiced, um, there was just a kind of natural affinity I had for the instrument. My parents would take me to different shows happening around Dallas, and then I met um, professional trumpet players. And then once I found out you could actually do it for a living, I was just like, oh, man, this is it for me. And I guess the rest is history.
And did you ever have any attraction towards, say, piccolo trumpet or C trumpet or anything like that? Or have you always remained on just what? I mean, I know a lot of people will play different instruments, but I wondered if that's something that you've looked at or considered in terms of a career.
Piccolo and C trumpet, not so much. While I did study a lot of classical, just in the practical trumpet proficiency sense, it was never a goal of mine to go into, I guess, the settings where you would use a piccolo and C trumpet. Um, I don't tend to use it in my line of work in general. I had an affinity towards jazz and pop R&B. That was the music I grew up listening to in my culture. So
Is there an event that took place in your life where you sort of think, yeah, as a result of that, I've improved as a player, or I've moved forward slightly as a result of whatever that experience was?
first one that really encouraged me to like, oh, this is something like I need to really get after and get on is a good friend of mine, and I would call her my mentor personally, even though she doesn't see herself as my mentor. An amazing saxophonist, Caddy Rodriguez, was instrumental to me in like putting a lot of things in perspective as a professional horn player, particularly as a woman of color horn player. And she opened up a lot of doors for me. One of the doors was BET's Black Girls Rock Award show,
Hmm.
which is a TV show that would happen there. They would get BET would honor different Black women in various industries, and throughout the award show, there was performances and there was a house band. So she brought me in, introduced me to the music director Kim Burse as the trumpet player, and that was probably my first, I guess, major production TV cameras zooming in, going into your face. And one thing that comes along with that is the rehearsals tend to be quite long, like 6, 7, 8 hours plus. And as a trumpet player, that's quite, to me, was quite the task of like being able to play and like sustain your chops for that many hours. And it was just kind of a wake up call for me of like, oh, like, you grow up seeing these opportunities, whether it be that or eventually when I started working with Beyonce or any of the artists that I work with, it's like the rehearsals that come with these big productions are pretty long. And as a trumpet player or as a member of the band, you have to be able to sustain yourself through them all day rehearsals. So at that first award show just kind of brought that into perspective of like, oh, this is something I got to be able to do. And the more and more I do it, the stronger I am, the stronger my chops are, the more mentally prepared I am to just sit
Yeah.
in rehearsals for 6, 7
Well,
hours.
do you find, therefore, that when you pace yourself, that you're not perhaps focusing as much as you'd like to? Because when you're on the show, you're thinking, okay, this is it now. I've got to really focus and do this performance. But then when it's lots of things which don't involve you, but you've still got to play it, say 10 times. So I wonder, how do you keep the concentration up?
Um, I think just practice of like doing it a bunch of times, but definitely there are moments where it's like, okay, I can kind of sit back and not play 100%. And then there are other times where it's like, they're they're taping this for reference for the artist, or camera crew needs to see and check the sound to see what it is, where you do have to do it 100% a bunch of different times. So just for me, it's just learning how to judge what moment is which and being able to, I guess, perform when needed.
So the products that you use, the brand of trumpet and the mouthpiece combination with the trumpet and the mutes that you use, do they affect your ability to continue to grow as a player? Do you use them, for instance, for practicing, for breathing, or is it just from a performance point of view?
Yeah, I'm I grew up with the mentality of you pick you pick what you pick and you stick to it. There's always room to test things out and try it, but the same instrument, mouthpiece, equipment, whatever combination that I use on stage is the same I use in my own practicing, and same I use when I teach. I'm pretty across the board, whatever I use, I use. As far as mouthpieces, I've really been enjoying the Heritage mouthpiece. It's probably the most comfortable mouthpiece, and I'm not a big change to mouthpiece for whatever gig you are. I just use the same mouthpiece for whatever I got going on.
Well,
It's
that's
really
unusual as a trumpet player because a lot of trumpet players have about 10 different mouthpieces in a pouch, and then they say, oh, okay, I'm playing this piece now, and they put a mouthpiece in, and then they change it. I've even seen it in the same piece where they change a mouthpiece. So you don't subscribe to that.
No, the first trumpet teacher I had was a firm believer in like you pick the one mouthpiece and you just learn how to use it in all the different capacities. So I'm not knocking, you know, changing mouthpieces and everything, because I do have quite a few colleagues who change mouthpieces depending on the situation they're performing in.
If you look back and sort of think who inspired you the most from a playing point of view, was it the people you grew up with? Was it the teachers that you had? Was it recordings? Was it YouTube? What would you say was your biggest inspiration?
It probably has changed over the years. I think when I was younger and I didn't have a lot of examples of people who looked like me doing what I was trying to do, particularly like Black women trumpet players, it was definitely my teachers and who inspired me to like keep going and I guess be the example that I was hoping or wish that I had, you know. And but now that I work more in the industry, have worked with a bunch of different people, have been introduced to a lot of people who look like me, who do what I do, is definitely my peers who inspire me. Fellow Denis Wick artist Arnetta Johnson is one of my best friends, and we've worked together a lot, but we also hang out a lot. And just seeing how her career has blossomed is very inspiring. Yeah, it's definitely I'm inspired by my peers in the industry at the moment.
Well, that's all the questions. Thank you. That was very, very easy. So thank you very much. And,
Wow.
thank you for your time. I'll look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, thank you very much from Denis Wick.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.